Live from the top of the beautiful towers at Merle Hay Mall, all 6 stories of it, it's Faith Works Live with host Michael Damastis.
Thank you for joining us today for Faith Works Live, and I'm so glad that you are with us. It's been quite an interesting Monday. The temperatures have climbed, and that's a big deal for a company that supports our show, Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. They can help you get cool if you need to get cool on a day like today. But I want to say I'm so glad that you are joining us. My name's Michael Damastis. I'm the host of Faith Works Live, and today in the studio with me is Dan Hudson.
Yes, sir.
Preacher at Pathway Church in Johnston, Iowa. And they had, was it last Friday? It wasn't Mother's Day weekend. It was a week ago. I forgot to ask you about the Mitch McVickers concert.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was outstanding. I don't recall, just from a pure entertainment level, I can't think. I've gone to some big concerts, in my day.
Right.
And I can't think of a time I've been entertained more. And of course, he's a Christian guy, so it was a good, wholesome thing too. And a good crowd. Yeah, it was a good time. We'll have him back. We really will.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that the event was a success, and it looks like you guys had a great Mother's Day weekend at your congregation too.
Holy moly! Yeah, I think our Mother's Days are bigger than Easter.
Oh, really?
They really are. We do it up. We do big old breakfasts and do family photos, and I'm like missing some big thing. I don't know. We just do a bunch of big stuff, and we had a bunch of milkshakes we were giving out. Kids were running all over the place. We got their kids full of sugar, and moms appreciate that.
Yeah,
they love that. Matter of fact, they thank us for that.
That's very helpful.
Maybe they don't
do that. That's really.
Maybe I misunderstood.
Really cool.
No, but it was good. It was just a crowd. The hallways were full. We were like, I don't know what to do with all these people. So, yeah.
Well, Dan, I chatted with you about what we were going to talk about today a little while back, and said I'd like to talk with you about doubt, but I just wasn't sure if this was a good topic or not.
I didn't think you meant it. I thought, no, he's not really serious. That can't be real.
I know.
He probably wants to talk about something else. I doubt that would be a topic.
Yeah, doubting. Well, so here's the thing. You and I both went through a series that we preached called Room for Doubt.
Right, yep.
And, this is the conversations that we're going to have over the next few Mondays. We're going to kind of talk about some of the stuff we talked about in that, and we started off by talking about doubt in general. Mm-hmm. And I'll say when I preached on this topic of doubt, I remember a very emotional response that was felt by an individual that was visiting our church for the very first time that Sunday.
Right.
They ended up leaving during my sermon and walking out, and
that was me.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was it.
Yeah. And anyways, no, they left. They were upset. They wrote me. They contacted me later, and they're like, "Hey, doubt is from the devil.
Yeah.
And you talking about doubt is wrong. A Christian pastor should never talk about doubt. They should be talking about things that are godly and encouraging. And I can't believe that you were teaching your congregation about doubt. How dare you?
Let's pretend everything smiles and unicorns and rainbows. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So it was a really surprising response to me, honestly, to that whole experience. But
I mean, you've been a pastor for a long time. Haven't you ever doubted?
I doubt, honestly. It is a recurring theme. There are times in my life that I go through periods of solid, just, there's unshakable movement in what I believe and what I feel. And then there's times when I doubt my own commitment. I doubt, even I've doubted at times my own beliefs. I mean, I can't say that I don't know of a Christian that hasn't had that experience.
Who's being honest? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and not even like a crisis of faith, but just a moment at least where you go, now I'm hearing that this faith over here is real, and this faith over, you hear all these things from secular sources and the media and all these different things. And every once in a while, don't you at least, doesn't it just go through your mind? Are we right? Are we really sure?
Oh yeah.
Because I'm staking my current life and my eternal life on this being real.
Right.
And so then you dig in, and for at least in my case, it's like you reaffirm everything. Yep, that's why I believe this. Yep, that's why I believe this. And then I go back to being okay. But you have moments.
Well, everybody does.
Yeah.
And I think that's a natural thing. By the way, also joining us in the studio today is my son, Jacob Damastis, who in just a little bit was going to give us his normal Monday afternoon sports update, which I'm looking forward to. But Jacob, you doubt, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
You have doubts?
I doubt all the time. I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was over at my buddy's house, and I was just kind of telling him I was really struggling with the fact that I was doubting whether or not God actually led me on the career path that he led me on.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I felt like he showed me what he wanted me to do, and then he kind of just left me there. and I just felt completely and entirely alone, and I was, just very much struggling with the fact that, I had no Christian brother to really rely on. And then it was funny thing. Literally the next shift, I went in and we had hired a Christian, like no joke.
Interesting.
It was like because she started talking about because I added her on Facebook and she started talking about this show because she saw it on my Facebook and she was like, "Is your dad a pastor or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, he does a radio show and just kind of does it like current news from the perspective of a Christian." She's like, "Oh, that's really cool. We need stuff like that in our lives." And I was just like, "This is just."
That's
crazy.
awesome.
It was really cool. So.
Yeah, it is. That is. And anybody that would listen to this show obviously is already superior in the faith. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, and I would say there's a certain amount of it's a little bit healthy. There are times it's good to doubt. I mean,
well, I think first we got to clarify what it is because you know what I mean. I mean,
right.
Some people would say, well, doubting is just unbelief. And that's not true.
Right.
Because the opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is unbelief. And unbelief is like an intentional, I'm not going to believe in. It's almost a volitional, willful, I refuse to believe attitude.
Right,
so
the
opposite of faith is not unbelief. Or, I mean, the opposite of faith is not doubt. It is unbelief. So doubt is when we are kind of held in a spot of ambivalence, where we're not sure, we're undecided about something, whatever that thing may be. And so for a lot of us, that can creep in with issues related to our faith. Now, sometimes we don't question the big picture, like does God exist? Or we don't question the big picture of, I don't know, is there life after death? Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? We don't question those things, but we might question like segmented parts of our faith, and theological.
What if the Calvinists are right?
Exactly.
But that never lasts.
Perish the thought.
Yeah. That doubt usually. No, I read the Bible. You'll send letters to Michael Damastis.
Yes, exactly. No, but that's I got you, and that's the reality. I mean, a lot of us have struggles in certain arenas, not necessarily always the big picture items, and so that's important, I think, for us to clarify. And now here is something I really want to talk about, because remember John the Baptist. Mm-hmm. He was baptizing, and he's at the Jordan River, and
kind of a preacher of preachers type of guy.
He was
man of men,
and
man among
Jesus
men.
Starts to come up to him because Jesus is going to be baptized. And what is it that John the Baptist said when he saw him?
Is this like where the "I'm not worthy" that you're looking for, or you're
Jesus? He said when he saw Jesus, he said, "Look." Or behold, the Lamb of God who comes to take away the sin of the world.
Pretty confident statement there.
Who he is. That's who Jesus is. Look who this guy is, guys. This is the Lamb of God. He's coming to take away the sin of the world. That's what John the Baptist said of Jesus. So then John the Baptist, like all of us, went through some hardships because he got arrested. And while he was in jail, while he's in prison, he began to doubt.
Yeah.
He had questions because he sent his disciples. In fact, in Luke chapter 7, verses 18 and 19, it says that John's disciples came to Jesus. They were sent by John to ask Jesus the question, "Are you the one who was to come, or should we expect someone else?"
Right.
So John the Baptist, as we refer to him, is also John the Doubter.
Right.
He went through some hard times and he questioned. Now, how did Jesus respond?
Well, I mean, before we get to the response, I think there was some theology issues there. Not even like, do I believe you're Messiah, but do I understand kingdom correctly? You came to start a kingdom,
right?
And the Messiah is going to be the kingdom builder, and and I'm seeing things happening differently than I anticipated,
right?
Which is why he doubted. It's
right.
Here's my expectations of Jesus. Here's what's really happening. And he wants to find out, are my expectations wrong, or are you the wrong person? Because I think we all do that. Hey, I prayed for my aunt to be healed and she wasn't, and now I doubt. It's the same thing as, I expected Jesus to build this kingdom that looked like this,
right.
And we're beating Rome up.
Right.
And he's saying, no, go ahead and walk a second mile. Like, what? I'm the bold preacher in Campbell's hair, come on, Jesus, let's kick it,
Right.
I think that's partly what's going on.
No, and I agree.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that he was having doubts. I mean, he was experiencing trials in his own personal life.
Yep.
And those doubts came in, and that's how it happens in our lives as well. But here's the key, and I want you to understand this. Jesus responded to the disciples of John, and he said, go back and tell John this. Report to John the things you've seen, the things that you've heard. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is preached to the poor. And then a little bit later, in the same chapter, Jesus is speaking about John the Baptist. Now, keep note that he did not rebuke John for his doubts. In fact, he described John.
He wasn't angry or anything.
No, he wasn't. And
dirty John.
Verse 28, he said, I tell you, among those born of women, there's no one greater than John. Jesus, now, not only is this his cousin, but he recognized the fact that John he's human. And it's human. Part of the human condition is to have doubts. We question at times. Is this for real? Is this legit? It's not a bad thing to have doubts. In fact, when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about what causes us to have doubts, but how there can actually be an upside to doubt. There can actually be positive benefits of doubt, and I wanna get into that when we come back. Have you ever doubted? Let us know. 515-727-5842. You're listening to FaithWorks Live, and I am your host, Michael Damastis, sitting on top of the Tower of Truth, right here at Merle Hay Mall along beautiful scenic Merle Hay Road. And we are in the studio with Dan Hudson, the supreme pastor at Pathway Church in Johnston, Iowa.
That makes me feel good about myself.
And we also have Jacob Damastis sitting in the wingman chair today. Going to be bringing to us in just a little bit a sports update, telling us about what's happening in the world of sports. But we're talking about doubts, and I want to just address the cause of doubts in people's lives, because I think a lot of us don't really think through this.
Yeah,
what brings doubt about? I think that it's important to maybe be aware of this, because there's a lot of varying reasons, honestly, that can bring doubt up in a person's life, that can open up an invitation even to doubt. And one of those arenas is when we have intellectual questions,
right,
about God, about His Word, and sometimes those questions aren't answered satisfactorily, and so we just begin to doubt because of, we're not having satisfaction with our reason. It's not being met properly.
Well, when you're a child, you're taught all these things, and you just accept it.
Right.
Whether it's things about Christmas and Easter and other holidays, or Jesus, And then one by one, some of those get blown up, and then later on you go, well, wait a minute, how do I know this one's true? So I think there's actually a natural progression in just the human mind to watch with your children. When the faith comes from a family faith to their personal faith, there's always going to be doubt involved. Same with us as adults.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's there was a statement, I remember when I preached through this statement I thought was really good, that I had heard, and I can't give it attribution because I don't know who said it. But it has been said that Christians should believe simply. That is, they should believe like a child, but they shouldn't just simply believe.
There you go. Yeah.
And so I really like the distinction, and that's the problem when we simply believe without really asking a ton of questions.
Just close your eyes, put your hands over your ears, and say la la la. I believe in Jesus. Don't talk to me about anything that
That's an invitation, honestly, to doubt when you do simply believe, but that's not the same as believing simply.
Right.
So that's a challenging thing. Now, here's another part of this. What causes doubts is when a person has a whole framework, a whole understanding of God and His Word that is inaccurate. They don't necessarily see God the way that God actually is. They have framed God in a way that they want Him to be. And so when that God is not giving them what they think He is supposed to be giving them, or doing for them what they believe He's supposed to be doing for them, then all of a sudden they begin to doubt, even though the entire framework is wrong.
Right.
They've built all of this upon an inaccurate view of who God is. That is another invitation for doubt as well.
Jesus said that He will answer every prayer that I ever ask, and I asked to win this lottery, or if I asked my uncle's cancer to be healed and it didn't happen, therefore He must be wrong. Because your understanding of Scripture of who He is, He's my genie. I'm going to rub this lamp and say the magic words, and anything I want should happen, and that doesn't happen. That will be a crisis of faith for you.
Absolutely.
That hopefully will lead to a healthy thing to kind of work through. Okay, where is my misunderstanding?
Right.
Is it because I misunderstand, or is there something else? But hopefully people dig into it. Don't just say I was wrong and quit.
Right.
And run, and because people will do that too.
Yes. Now another arena where people begin to doubt is because of their emotions, and so it's really important to distinguish that faith is not an emotion.
Right.
Faith is a decision of your will, and so our faith really is not an ebb and flow upon how I'm feeling at a particular given time. And you're doing a sermon series right now that's really, I think, a really needed topic called All the Feels.
Yeah. We just went through some of the emojis, and thought, hey, we'll call it All the Feels and talk about controlling your emotions, and that's it. You have this great mountaintop experience. Maybe it was at a conference or a camp or church service or whatever, and then like 3 years later, you go, well, I don't feel like that anymore. Maybe what happened? Is God left me? Am I alone? I'm on a job where I'm feeling alone. Like because those are real emotions. That's we're made with those emotions, and wading through that, I think, is
and that can bring doubt in people's lives when they don't feel like God is close. And another thing, just to acknowledge in this same arena, is that there are some people who have a personality that is driven towards mood swings or driven toward depression, and they have a natural melancholy spirit that might just be the arena that's easy to grow doubt in.
Right.
And so that's an important thing to understand too.
Then it becomes circular. It starts growing and growing. Yeah.
And just knowing who you are and your personality type. Another thing, people that have had hard, emotional, abusive scars in their past, that can cause them, as they reflect upon what has occurred in their life, that can cause them to have doubts in the present because of what happened in the past. And so that's just something to be aware of, that occurs in a lot of people's lives. We're talking about doubt. We're talking about how does it spring up in people's lives, the causes of doubt. And we've been looking at the fact that there are people that intellectually have issues where doubt occurs, people that have emotional issues where doubt occurs. And so I think it's really important. Now, something that I don't want to stroll over real fast is to understand that sometimes Doubt creeps in because you are willfully staying in sin. Mm-hmm. You're willfully choosing to stay involved in a sin. And then that begins to just breed doubt in your brain. And it creates this lack of peace. Mm-hmm. It creates this feeling of I'm God and I are just totally separated. And so because you can't find peace, you question why God isn't bringing comfort into your life. And when you feel that God's distant, and you begin to doubt whether maybe he's even there at all.
Or even, on that same line, you sin and like, well, I didn't get struck by lightning. Nothing happened.
Right.
But sin is the root there. And then pretty soon I'm enjoying sin, and maybe I shouldn't, and you start justifying, you build a wall between you and God, which will lead to doubt.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, just as a scriptural underpinning of this entire conversation on doubt, is to understand that 1 John 4:4, and many of you are familiar with this verse. John says, "You, dear children, are from God, and you have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world." And those are, we've talked about a few ways that people can be impacted, afflicted, infected, maybe even with the virus of doubt. And it is imperative that you don't stay there. Mm-hmm. It's imperative that you do something about this to get your spiritual health back on track. And I'm telling you, if a person is really kind of caught up in this virus of doubt, that it's not an easy thing to change course. And that's what I want to do when we come back in our next segment, is to talk about a way that we can really deal with our doubts in an effective way. And I want to hear from you. Have you had big doubts in your life about the faith? Give us a call, 515-727-5842.
It's Mikey. He's better than TV. We're listening to Mikey, and best of all, it's free.
You're listening to Faith Works Live, and I am your host, Michael Damastis. And we are proudly sponsored as a show by Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, and Nathan Shanks, the good people over there. Thank you so much for believing in not only what 99.3 The Truth does, but what Faith Work Live does as well every single day. And that's because we believe in you, the listener. We want you to be encouraged in your walk, in your faith in Christ. And so today we've reached the moment for my son Jacob to give us his weekly sports update.
So today, we're talking about doubt. It's pretty great. This gives me a good lead-in. You know who's experiencing a lot of doubt this summer?
Who's that?
Cubs fans.
Let's not go there, shall we? Cubs
fans, it's come full circle. We got another 108 years to wait now?
Here's the thing. They can't take our World Series championship away from us. We have it.
For another 108 years.
I don't care. I'll be dead then. I have it. It happened in my lifetime. We've got critical mass. It's all good.
Okay.
You're still wearing the ring, right?
Yeah.
Till I die, baby. Till I die.
So, not going to lie, there hasn't been a whole lot of noise made other than the NBA playoffs, which, I'm not really into. But the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs, they had quite the game. And I don't know the players' names, but I know somebody got hurt, and I know somebody was mad about it. So it's super controversial. Look it up, people. I don't have time for that.
Well, it is the NBA.
Right. Okay. So today I decided we're going to talk about a very prominent Christian athlete.
Oh, really? Yeah. Who is this?
This would be Tim Tebow.
Oh.
The old Tebow.
Tim Tebow. Tim Take a Kneel Tebow.
That's the one. The football player turned baseball player. He's playing right now for the Columbia Fireflies, averaging 243 with 103 at bats this season.
That's a minor league team for the Mets.
Yep, for the Mets. Yes, sir. He's hit 2 home runs as well. And something pretty cool. The Mets have been talking about promoting him to the major leagues. He might get his shot.
That's awesome.
That's super cool. I was pretty stoked when I saw that. I mean, the Mets could use a boost right now. Let's be for real here. They're sitting at second place in their division at 16-20. Let that sink in for the other teams in that division that the Mets are in front of you at 16-20.
Wow.
You know, they could be looking for an answer with, you know, plummeting ticket sales and all that. They could be looking for a boost in that, boost in merchandise sales. I mean, I'd buy a Tebow jersey. I'd buy a Tebow
no doubt.
Mets jersey. I sure would, you know.
He's a pretty classy guy.
He is a classy guy.
I could care less about baseball, but I might buy one.
Yeah,
just because.
Excuse me? Baseball.
Yeah.
That's God's sport.
It's like a stick and a ball.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
it is the break between basketball and football, where I get to do nothing and enjoy life.
Amen.
No. I agree. Football is great. I like football. I really, really do.
Football's the best.
But nobody cares about golf or basketball. So the only other important sport, which is really the best sport, is the boys of summer, baseball. That's an American sport. It's the best sport.
It is definitely the most American sport, I think.
Yeah. Was it in the 90s they had a big strike? I think that's the last time I watched a game. I said, this is ridiculous. And
yeah, so you went to football, and you like college football more than pro football.
Yeah, I don't watch any pros anything.
And you know, and that's funny because I mean, all those guys that smoke pot and beat up girls in the dorms and stuff. Yeah, those are the guys you like.
They are. They need Jesus. Someone has to love these people.
At least they're not getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to smoke pot and beat up girls.
That we know of.
A lot of NFL players do that too. So
they're hoping to be able to afford it someday, but right now
they're just doing it for free. So anyway, Tebow. I think it's really cool. He's remained steadfast in his faith with all of the spotlight that's on him. You know, all of the attention.
That's a lot of pressure, honestly.
It's a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
It's a ton of pressure, you know. And talk. I mean, we're talking about doubts. This guy has to experience a lot of doubts, you know, with what he believes that God has put him on this earth to do, you know. And I feel like that's it's really cool because the other day it was some kind of a press conference after an off-season workout with the Mets. He was asked about what does he believe, you know, like what does he believe he was put on this earth to do? And this is his response here. So much of pressure you have when you're 0-12 at the plate versus someone who is fighting for their life versus someone who we picked up on the side of the street in Haiti because they're cripple. How do you compare those things? And for me, there's not a comparison, he said. And he went on to say that he knows that he was not here for sports. He was here to bring faith, hope, and love to those needing a brighter day in their darkest hour.
That's so cool.
It is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
I respect Tim Tebow, and
me too.
He's definitely
he's hated. I mean, a lot of people hate him, and I don't understand that, honestly. Where that comes from? Is it because of his faith?
I don't know.
Because of his outspoken faith.
Yeah, I would say it's more so the outspoken aspect of it. I mean, you know,
stay in your closet, you'll be fine.
Right. You know, it's kind of the same thing. Honestly, I hate to compare him to people, especially. Anyway, it's kind of the same thing with Colin Kaepernick. Honestly, he was outspoken with his political beliefs, and look where he is now. Nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So, but you know, Tim Tebow, he's an encouragement to me, and I know he's an encouragement to a lot of people. And just the fact that he stays steadfast in his faith, with all of the attention that's brought on him, I think is a really cool thing. So
I didn't realize we also have something really, really big in common. Neither one of us then were created to be an athlete.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, well, he said he wasn't, and I'm not either.
Right.
You are different.
I am.
My father's physique is it's bred for bowling. That's a high demand sport, man. It's tough.
Yeah, that's right. You're done. Your segment's over.
And that's sports.
Well, Jacob, thank you for bringing the sports update for us
Yeah, no problem.
this week and talking about Tim Tebow. He is a great guy, and I look forward to hearing about more athletes like him, because there's a lot of Christian athletes
sure
out
are.
there, and even the sports that don't really matter, like golf and NBA. There's Christians in
NASCAR.
there too.
Careful. We're in the Midwest.
That's right.
Careful.
America.
I got to wash my car on the way out.
Yeah, you sure do.
Well,
dear.
we have been speaking this whole show about the issue of doubts and doubting, and we in our last segment we addressed the causes of doubts, and there's a lot of different reasons that people will doubt, but we said that it's not a great place to stay, and we for where we're at right now, I want to just kind of open up ways that we can deal with doubts in a healthy way. And Dan and I both are not big fans of acronyms, but we have one that I think will maybe stick in your head.
I think you're right. If doubt is your issue, then you want to really key in on your faith, and faith was what will break down into some steps, pretty practical steps to getting back to some spiritual health in your life. If you take the F of faith, it would be find the root of your doubt, and we talked about some of those in earlier segments. Why am I doubting? Is it do I feel disappointed? Am I let down? What is it? Be honest with yourself. First, you have to be honest that you're really doubting, because, like you say, you've even had someone at your church that wouldn't admit to themselves that they were doubting. So just be honest. Man, I'm really struggling. And then you can start looking at the source of that whole doubt. A is ask God for others for help. That goes back to the honesty. God, help me believe.
So find out where your doubt's coming from.
Yeah.
Is it something from my emotions, from my past, in my head? Is this a reason issue? I don't feel like I'm having all my questions answered, or
And it's legitimate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, be okay with that.
Yeah.
So that you can, just like you don't say, well, I don't have cancer.
Right.
Well, if you do.
Yeah, there's an issue.
Yeah.
But you know what? And here's the thing. And on that, by the way, the emotional side of that, finding the root, I would say that because I've known people that have a hard time accepting God the Father because of their earthly fathers. Mm-hmm. They messed them up.
Yeah.
And just understanding God as a father to them isn't a helpful, metaphor.
Yeah.
It's not a good image for them. And so, that's
because they're trying to create God in their earthly father's image.
Exactly.
It goes back to, my faith is messed up because my understanding of God is messed up.
And that's an important distinction. I mean, you getting a person to be honest about that. One of the reasons I doubt is because of this, and this is who my dad was.
But we can deal with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And the second thing, and we'll kind of unpack it a little bit more in our next segment, but is asking God and maybe asking others.
Yep.
For help in this, and so we'll unpack that just a little bit.
The traffic on I-235 may be stop and go, but the conversation here never slows down. If you want to be a part of it, you can call or text 515-727-KTIA.
You're listening to FaithWorks Live, and I am your host, Michael Damastis. And I have to ask you a question. If you have gone and checked on your water heater lately, most of us don't. It just sits in our basement and does its thing day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Did you know that the average lifespan of a water heater is 10 years? I can tell you honestly, mine is way over that. I know that I'm going to be needing to replace my water heater soon. And good for me that I know Nathan Shanks and Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, because they can, for a very fair, reasonable price, come and get a new water heater in your home. So you won't have to worry, because when a water heater, there's no gradual water heater going out kind of thing. When a water heater's done, it's done. and there's no warning, there's no whatever. You just need to know. I mean, you probably have in your home a water heater, more likely than not, that's older than 10 years. And if that's the case, you're living on a wing and a prayer right now. So call Nathan Shanks, Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing to get a great deal on a water heater, fair and reasonable, and he will help you out. The number to call is 515-371-4036. That's 515-371-4036. Baldwin Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing will help you get a new water heater in your home. So we've been talking about doubt.
Yes.
And we began last segment talking about ways to deal with your doubt, because it's really not a great place to just kind of sit in my doubt and never try to deal with it.
I doubt that.
But he's here all day. Dan said one of the things that we need to do is we need to rely on faith,
Right.
and that starts with the F.
Finding the root of your doubt. Why are you doubting? What's
Yes.
the cause?
What has caused the doubt? And secondly, the A, he alluded to this.
Ask God and others for help.
Yes.
It's so important for people to have maybe a small group they're a part of, a community of believers that they can be honest with and authentic with, and just say, "Hey, man, I'm struggling." It's important to be able to honestly have that kind of relationship with God. Hey, God, I'm struggling with my faith. Help me believe. I want to believe. Who hasn't prayed a prayer like that before?
Well, what about the father of the demon-possessed boy? Mark chapter 9, verse 24. He said to Jesus, "I do believe, but help me
my unbelief
with my unbelief."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Christ did. He did help him.
Yep. So that's key. I mean, that is a big step right there. And that's like still the beginning stages. That's like, okay, now you're being honest. Now you're opening up to I'm being honest and I'm reaching out to people or God, both, hopefully, for help. Then you go on to identify some type of course of treatment. Once you get the root, you can work with that. Like we talked about earlier, maybe I have father issues. Well, let's talk about that. Who is God? How is he a better father than your earthly father? And go from there. Or my emotions get me down. Well, how can we get around that so that you're not relying on your emotions for your faith, but you're looking at something more concrete that doesn't change and go up and down like the living eternal Word of God. You can come up with a treatment once you have an idea what's causing it, and then get some people around you that's asking for help part to keep you accountable to this identifying a course of treatment.
And I can't tell you how many. This is a really important part of this, because I can't tell you how many times personally that I have known someone who said to me that they question something about the faith, but they've never actually taken time to study it.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they'll question the reliability of God's word. It's just a book of myths,
Go ahead
written
and
by
read
men.
it,
But I haven't studied it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but they
Never
just
actually
say
read
that
it through once.
Exactly. And
You
so
know.
that's this whole thing of actually dealing with it. Okay, I doubt that's real. I doubt that's legit. But actually doing something about it is really an important part of this.
And if you want to go a step further, you get into the research of, okay, I don't know if I can doubt the resurrection just because it says it. Well, that's a plethora of information out there, of outside sources that you can go to that can talk about that. We'll talk about that another week. But that's still, I mean, there's so much out there beyond the Bible that proves the Bible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a really important thing. And I think that you need to figure out where it is that you need to be on this, because it might not even be something, honestly, that is necessarily Bible related, even though you believe it is. Mm-hmm. It might be that it's just time for you to see a Christian counselor.
Right.
And recognizing that, because maybe the issue is, we addressed it, but maybe the issue is you're stuck in a sin pattern and you're just not getting out of that. And that is causing you to feel this distance between you and God.
I have a highly respected friend who's told me before, every single person should go to a counselor at least once. And I've never done it, so I kind of feel hypocritical saying that. But sometimes I'll sit there and think, man, I should go, but I don't know what I'd say. Like, why are you here? But definitely, if you struggle in areas of doubt, go to a Christian counselor,
Right?
Because they can help you. They'll give you. They'll
And
give you.
I can
solid
say
stuff.
I have been. I have been personally, and I think that it's important. I think that the problem is the the way we feel about something like that. You know, we feel like there's like this stigma that goes with that, and I don't know why. I mean, we don't feel a stigma when we go to the doctor.
You take a Tylenol.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, oh no, yeah, right. I mean,
it's weird, but no, I think that identifying a true course of action, for this. So that's the F, the A, the I, and what is the
T? Take care of your spiritual health. Let me say, I think that I'm gonna just be honest. I think the average American believer is just a spiritual wimp. They're not doing the disciplines of the faith. They're not engaged in prayer and fasting and just the whole things of discipleship and disciplines. We go for the show. I mean, we just, it just drives me insane. And the more you're in prayer, the more you're in the Word, the more you're connected with Christ and fasting, and there's just so much to say there. That's another whole program. That keeps you solid, though.
Well, here's the thing, and I said this a little bit earlier, that doubt is kind of like a virus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when our physical bodies are not being maintained,
not getting enough
we
sleep,
are more
nutrition,
susceptible to infections and viruses and all of those things, because we're not at the place that we need to be physically. And so it's really important, in line of what you're talking about, spiritually, we need to also be fit.
Yep. And
that comes along with, like you just described, all of these different disciplines.
Taking my children to the soccer game more than I am to church. I don't know why I'm doubting. Get your butt back in church. Drop out of softball. There's something more eternal than that, friend.
That's right. That's right. You know what's really, okay, all right, time to jump up on the soapbox. But
here we go.
It drives me crazy when I have folks that'll say, okay, well, we're going to be camping all summer, and I love you, but we'll see you later. Not only do they not stay connected anymore to the Lord's church, they're not communing, weekly, they're not tithing regularly, they're not doing any of those things, and so their spiritual health is being jeopardized because they want to go camping all summer. Seriously?
And then they say, we just don't think your church is friendly. Well, how would you know?
You're never here.
All right, we got to get off our soapbox. Let's close this out. FAIT, and what's the H? Faith.
Hold your remaining questions in tension.
Wow.
You know what? You just may not get. There's some things you don't have an answer for. You just won't.
That's
God's
so very
bigger
true.
than us. If I can figure out God, then He's a pretty small God. Honestly. So there's going to be some things I'll figure out in heaven, and I have a feeling, I've always said that though, but I have a feeling we get to heaven, we won't care anymore.
I'll tell you, and this is
I have a list of Apostle Paul questions.
This is the truth though, and I remember to date the most difficult funeral I have ever done was for Jennifer Hooger. She was the wife of one of our elders and one of our close friends in our church, Lonnie, and she died of ALS. Mm-hmm. And I remember being with Jennifer and her confessing to me her doubts. She had doubts because her doubts were, why isn't God answering my prayers?
Right.
I don't want this. I don't think this is the best thing for my family. And so those doubts were really big and really, really, just right in front of her face. And all I know is those doubts had to be held in tension. Mm-hmm. They weren't resolved. I believe they are now.
She opened her eyes in the presence of Jesus, and it was all okay.
That's right.
I mean,
doubts. Listen, guys, the reality is this for all of us. We all have doubts at times in our lives. The deal is to not stay there. We do have doubts that creep in from time to time, and it is okay. Just read the Psalms, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. David is expressing heartfelt doubt many, many times. Why is this happening? Why are my pursuers chasing me? Why aren't you answering my prayers? Doubt is a part of the faith experience. It just really is. I hope that this was an encouragement to you, because if you doubt, it doesn't mean you're an evil person. Doubt is real, but there is an answer. Let's trust in Christ. See you tomorrow.